pay cuts are
Yep.
still a big issue. We got a report that Chelsea have reached an agreement, although there's no official announcement yet. You need to help me with this, because they said that they're going to take a 10% pay cut on their monthly wages for the next 4 months.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of math, and it's basically a 3.3% pay cut on their annual salary. Okay.
Yep.
Now, this is an actual pay cut. It's not a deferment.
Yes. Yeah.
The Arsenal thing, it was 12.5% on their annual wage. So the Arsenal people were asked to give back 4 times as much money.
Yeah.
And then obviously with the bonuses, there was a chance they could get some of that back if they qualified for the Champions League, which they obviously weren't. Maybe the Europa League could be a possibility. Who knows, right? That's a huge disparity, isn't it?
It is, but I guess you negotiate. Cesar Azpilicueta was the one negotiating on behalf of the Chelsea squad. Hector Bellerin was the one negotiating on behalf of the Arsenal squad. Every club will have one representative who negotiate with the clubs. I guess you do as best as you can for the interest of your players, your squads. You also want to help the club. I really refuse to believe that anyone who plays for Arsenal, Chelsea, Watford, or whatever club doesn't want to help the club in this current situation. Even Mesut Ozil, I think he had his reasons for not agreeing that pay cut. We'll talk about that in a bit. But so I think you do your best. Initially, I was told Chelsea wanted 30% pay cut for their players. They negotiated down to 10. You could always say that they could have done more. Some haven't done it at all. So it's always a tricky one.
I mean, I think that 30%, of course, wasn't on the annual wages, and I think was a combination of deferred wages.
Yeah, there was
and
different
cuts.
options. Yeah.
But what I find interesting, and let's get to Ozil here, because all right, the dude's not particularly popular to begin with, right? Partly because he earns a phenomenal amount of money. I think he's one of the 3 highest paid players in the Premier League.
Yeah.
His performances haven't been terrible. I think they've just been pretty inconsistent. Certainly hasn't lived up. He hasn't performed like one of the 3 best players in the Premier League. I think, even his friends and relatives would agree with that.
Yeah.
He obviously had that falling out with your old buddy Unai Emery, right? He has the big crime, even when he's playing well. It's a big crime in England of sometimes looking disinterested, right? Which people love making a huge deal out of. It was obvious that when it turns out that he rejected this negotiated proposal, it was obvious he would be crucified. But Jules, he's not the only one. There's 3 Arsenal players who said no to this. But funnily enough, do you want to tell me who the other 2 were?
So there's actually only 2, not 3. And I will write about this for the website later today with the sort of inside story of the whole thing. 2, not 3. I know the second one. I'm not going to tell you now. But
so it's only Mesut Ozil whose name gets dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
So the other ones, okay.
Yeah, he's taken the flag for the other one as well. They at the beginning of the negotiation, there was half of the squad who rejected the first sort of proposal by the club. So it was not just Mesut. It was a lot of other players who, wanted a bit more negotiating. They wanted a bit more time to think about it. They wanted also to see or to know a bit more about the current financial situation of the club, which you can understand. If your club has a lot of money in the bank, why would you accept a pay cut? For example, if they've got enough money to survive this crisis, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But eventually, down to a squad of 27, only 2, as you said, rejected the offer. One being Mesut. He has his reasons. He says that, what I believe is that he gives a lot to charity, even when it's not the pandemic. He does a lot for people back in Turkey, in Germany, anywhere. He helps a lot of children who are in needs. There's a lot of things. So he says he already does a lot. That means right now this is different. This is not a charity in the pure sense of it. You help homeless people.
He's not running a charity, really?
It's no, but in the sense that he's helping your club.
Yeah.
He's helping the business that's been paying you for so many years now. And you could see the argument of what people are cross with him for not helping out. He clearly didn't feel like he they needed his pay cut as
Wow,
well, his
but
money.
here's the thing, right? And I want to stress this very clearly. His agent came and he spoke to our old buddy and colleague Ralph Honigstein on a podcast for The Athletic on Monday, and he came out and he stressed, and I have to stress this again because this dude's a lawyer, and you know what I think of lawyers and how lawyers are. He's not speaking specifically about the Ozil case. He's speaking in general.
Yeah.
That the way the clubs are going about this is frankly wrong. These are individual contracts. There's no collective bargaining. They tried the collective league-wide bargaining. Obviously, that didn't work. And that you should go and negotiate individual pay cuts with each player. Instead, what the clubs are doing is they're nominating one guy. For Chelsea, it was Azpilicueta, who's the captain. For Arsenal, I guess it's Bellerin. Forgive me, I get so confused about who the Arsenal captain is because I thought there were 5 of them.
It's Aubameyang, but
is it? Oh,
Bellerin who negotiated
because Bellerin knows how to use the WhatsApp machine, and Obama
because he's the PFA representative.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
They get a player to go and basically negotiate on behalf of the other players, and in some cases, he pointed out, you also get a manager, which again, reportedly, I don't know how involved Arteta was, but certainly from what I've read, and I don't know if you can confirm this, Arteta also got involved telling the players to take the deal or giving them advice on the deal. This is kind of a gigantic, I think, conflict of interest. We had the situation at Juventus where it's Giorgio Chiellini, who was out of contract, who's negotiating on behalf of the players. I'm sorry, if it's a negotiation, it's a negotiation. Hector Bellerin is qualified to speak for Hector Bellerin. As far as I know, Hector Bellerin is neither a lawyer.
Hector Bellerin talks to the squads, right? Players in the squad said to Hector, listen, I don't feel comfortable with this. We should do this. Another one said, yeah, I think so, but we could do differently. This is what happened.
Sorry,
and then he goes back to the club. It's not just him deciding by himself, right?
No, I'm not saying he's deciding by himself, but you need people, I think, who, in any negotiation, who know what the situation is, who know what the club situation is, who are qualified to go and make that decision. And the point that, and this is why, look, I'm no fan of Mesut Ozil, not as a person, as a player, but his agent had a very good point. Ozil never said, I'm not going to take a pay cut.
No.
He always said, I'm willing to defer my wages. Don't pay me now. Let's see what the figures are later when the figures come out, and we actually can assess what the economic hit. And I think that's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
And now this guy is being crucified left, right, and center. But you know what? He has a point. He's being asked to take a permanent pay cut now, or a 12-month pay cut. And he's overpaid or whatever. That's not his fault, right?
Yeah.
Without knowing what the actual damage to Arsenal is, because Arsenal don't know, because they don't know if they're going to restart the season. They haven't run the numbers. They haven't had access to the numbers. I think I'm, wearing my Union hat. I think he's the sane one here. All these other people are just giving away money willy-nilly. It's one thing if you accept a deferment. It's one thing if you accept, 3% pay cut, whatever, right? It's Chelsea. But to go and take such a big pay cut, if you're Arsenal, without knowing why you're taking this pay cut, without any evidence, without any assessment of what it does for your club, I think is frankly unfair. And I think Ozil's stance, and the one of the other mystery person who you may reveal later, is the correct one.
But you need some visibility as a club as well, and that's for every club, not just Arsenal, but for every club. You can't just say, okay, maybe you need to know where you stand in terms of how much money you've got available, how much money you will save. Yeah, but if every player says, okay, let's take a deferral now, and then we will see later, maybe in 6 weeks, in 8 weeks, in 12 weeks, in 16 weeks. What are the clubs saying? I'll say, okay, potentially we've saved this, but we're not sure. We might have saved this, or maybe we've saved this, or maybe this. But maybe we will have that money back in 4 months, but maybe not, but maybe in 2 months. But this is not clear enough. If you agree or something, whether that's a deferral, a pay cut, whatever, at least, the clubs know and they can deal with it and they can plan for the next few weeks and few months. Do you see what I mean?
No, Jules, because if there's a deferral, the club know exactly what they're saving themselves now, right? The clubs aren't going and spending as much in wages in the next 3 or 4 months. In 4 months' time, when they add up all the numbers, when we know exactly how much they've lost, they can say, okay, guys, you're going to get back this much money. Or you know what? You're not going to get back any money because we've lost more than we anticipated.
Yeah, but
I mean, this is how other clubs have done it. I don't see what the issue here is with Arsenal. I mean, it's a great deal for Arsenal.
But it's not just Arsenal. But what if those players say, all the players say, well, we want our money back. So you'll have to pay them the wages, their wages for that month, plus the last 4 months of wages that they've deferred as well.
You agree certain parameters, right? You say, okay, in 4 months' time, in 6 months' time, we're going to go back and we're going to be able to show you players, look, we lost 20% of our revenue in this period because of this sponsor and no gates here and whatever else. And so we would like you to take a 20%, and you agreed beforehand, you're going to take a 20% cut in wages or whatever it is, right? You create a formula for it. This is what other clubs have done. And I think it's the most reasonable way of doing it rather than just, agreeing, I'm talking from the player's perspective.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just give away your money. I mean, look, you could make a case to Mesut Ozil, hey, why don't you give money back since you haven't played to your salary? That's fine. I just feel a little sorry for the way he's been hung out to dry. He's been outed, so to speak, right? As the source of all evil. And I just don't think that that's right.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.